Done it all throughout your career. What was it about Ben's script and this character that stood out to you?
Uh, I think it's how uncomfortable it made me for the first time. I think this, out of all the scripts in 30 something years, this is the script that made me feel the most uncomfortable. I didn't know if I wanted to do it at first because of the subject matter and what my character does, and because of how uncomfortable. But then I realized that, like, I thought about it so much after. I thought about, what's next? Where does this guy go? What does his daughter do? I mean, and I just realized that maybe this is something important to do. Maybe this will start some conversations with people that are important. And I did it. And I stepped out of my comfort zone, and I tackled it. It was, and there were some days on set that were uncomfortable days, hard days. When Alyssa Milano got there, we didn't want to hang out. We didn't want to interact. We wanted to discover each other for the first time on set. And it was the scene where all that stuff happens. And she stayed in character, and she looked at me like that guy, and I felt it. It gave me chills, and yeah. And then we yelled rap for the last time. And it was okay. That guy's done, man. He is done, and I don't want to think about him for a while. So.
That's a perfect segue to this next question, but there's so much weight to this character, and he goes through this journey that ebbs and flows. How did you create the space for yourself to go to those darker places?
There was a lot of isolation for me. I stayed in my room. I read some books and just stayed in my room and didn't interact with the other cast. I always wanted to be thinking. I always wanted to be discovering, especially with Emma, because we hadn't seen each other in so long. The characters hadn't seen each other so long, and I always wanted, whenever we came to set and we started the scene, I always wanted the audience to see us wheels turning. What's everything, all this discovery, all this something's. What is he thinking about? What's going through his mind? That was kind of the process. That we relied on Ben a lot to talk about things. He was our director, but the rest of us kind of, me and Yardley, obviously, because we didn't have to have that relationship. But other than that, it was a lot of isolation, a lot of quiet time, a lot of thinking. So it was a deep subject matter. It was interesting journey.
Carl has that complex dynamic with his daughter, and she may be the one thing that he needs in his life, but at the same time, it forces him to come to terms with his past. As an actor, how did you prepare to tackle that juxtaposition, and what was it like collaborating with Emma?
Emma's a rock star. There is absolutely no. It does not surprise me at all that she's off shooting Lord of the Rings right now. She's very talented and very focused and gifted, and I see big things for her. And there was a lot of discussing there was a lot of talking with the director. We didn't want. Obviously, it's really hard to talk about things without spoiling anything. We didn't want to. Carl has a lot of good qualities. He did something it's unexcusable and unforgivable, but he does also have a lot of good qualities, and that's why we're so. It's why it's such a confusing. It's why it's going to create so many conversations after the reveal. What do we do now? What's next? I mean, what's next for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, I think I took your question and I went in 8 different directions with it. But it's really hard. I didn't realize in the first interview, I was like, this is really hard to talk about without revealing, because that's what this movie is that reveal.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. And you've worked on projects of all sizes. What is it about independent filmmaking that excites you as a creative?
I love the passion of young filmmakers. Specifically Ben Epstein on this one, Sean Linden on Hunter x Hunter. These are young filmmakers, but they've taken all the right steps to get to where they are now. Whatever those steps are, they're they're where they're supposed to be, and they're young and they're fresh and they got great ideas, and they're phenomenal to collaborate. I love doing the big stuff too. You know, you got, you do something like Chucky where it was huge budget and you have the best of the best around you. You know what I mean? It's like it's like the creme de la creme of different departments, and that's fun too. But I guess independent is you got a lot of people working with a small amount and they're just putting their heart and their soul into it. So.
You were saying earlier, the film challenges audiences to put themselves into the shoes of these characters and whether or not they can reconcile with the actions of the people closest to them. What was your take on second chances heading into this film, and did it change as a result of being part of this project?
The second chances are important. The question is what things are unforgivable and shouldn't have a second chance, or what, I mean, it's why this is such a powerful reveal. It's why it's like, do you know what I mean? What he did was unexcusable, and now what now? You know, that's where we're at.
Yeah, this is a darker, more grittier role than we've seen you do in the past.
Yeah.
Is there a scene that you're really excited for your fans to see, and what was the biggest takeaway being a part of this project?
I think that the groundedness with Emma, I think that this definitely is a different role than I've ever played. It's the role that I felt uncomfortable. That's why I was going to pass on it at first. It made me feel uncomfortable. I don't know if I want to be this guy. I don't know if I want to step in this guy's shoes. And being an actor, that's it's important to step out of your comfort zone. And a lot of the scenes with Emma where we're just discovering each other for the first time and talking, and it's sweet and it's nice, and you know that there's stuff that's coming out, and you know what I mean? It's like, there's a couple of scenes where me and Emma are like, you really like Carl. Carl's a great guy. Carl has, you know what I mean? And doing that as an actor, knowing what's to come it's really weird. It's really tricky, you know, because you don't want that to bleed in. You don't want old guy to bleed into those scenes. You want them to be sweet and nice. So it's such an impact when it does hit.
Yeah, it definitely does that in the film. I have one final question for you. You talked about going back and forth about taking this project. What was that deciding factor that made you sign on board?
Well, it was weird because I passed on it with my agents and management. I read it, and it's very well written. Ben is a very good writer, but it was the way it made me uncomfortable in at the end that made me initially pass. And Ben searched me down on social media, which is not, I please don't do this to people, but Ben passed it, and he slipped into my DMs, as they say. And he said, man, just have a Zoom conversation with me, and let's just talk about this guy for a second. And when the Zoom conversation was done, he convinced me that it was important that I needed to step out of my comfort zone and go for it and just do it. And I also had a couple of conversations with some people that I have a lot of trust in, and my wife, about what they thought and what their opinion was. And and Ben really sold me. It really sold me.